This is the Diana by HareTech Technologies. It's gonna be my new go-to mid-power secondary. It hits about mid 130, high 130s, about 140, between 130 and 140 FPS. It's a cute little guy, a really fun platform. Quick backstory on this one. This is one from Singapore. We ordered a sample months ago and it has yet to arrive. It might have gotten lost in shipping and they had to reship it out. But there's a lot of delays in getting one, so we were able to get this one from the Singaporean distributors, and we're hopefully going to be able to bring this into the US. So yeah, so it feels really good in the hand. It's very compact. It is customizable with the different button options. The battery goes in this front compartment here, and it has a really good rate of fire on semi and full auto. In addition, it's actually really snappy. If you put it on the idle mode, you'll be able to get a shot off and almost instantaneously be able to rev up to full speed and fire that shot. On the idle mode though, you do have a little bit of a delay, so you can keep it on the hyper mode, which will drain the battery more, but it's not that bad. The battery goes in the compartment here. It's a standard XT30 connection, and it chimes up, and it turns on. And here I have it in the, so that's off. Then we can turn it into semi-auto, and you can feel that delay. Okay, then your full auto. And then on the hyper mode though, it keeps the blaster revving partially. I don't know if you can hear that at all because it's so quiet. You wouldn't be able to hear that over the sound of someone walking. It's so quiet. And so that will make your trigger delay, check this out, almost nothing. And then full auto. And so one of the complaints we heard about it was that delay on the normal mode. The hyper mode solves a problem, but it kills your battery a little more and it heats it up a little more. But the hyper mode really solves any problem you'd have, and the hyper mode is quiet enough. I'm not too worried about it. If you're worried about battery drain though, you can get the version of the holster that has a reed switch. You can install a basic magnet reed switch. You can really install any reed switch that will just cut the power when it's connected to the magnet. So you don't really have to worry about it constantly draining. But on the normal mode, there is quite a delay. There's also a lot of built-in features here for future releases. So they have built-in heat inserts for a red dot sight, as well as heat inserts in the front for different muzzle attachments. And you may have seen that there's also, with those extra screw ports on the top, you could also add different add-ons for a future release. So it's really cool. They also have some threaded holes on the bottom here for a rail or a light. So the default package has already got a lot of options, and there's also threaded inserts on the bottom of the handle as well. So they have a lot of things in store for the Diana, I'm sure, and there's a lot of real estate for those add-ons. Because it is brushless motors, it's actually very quiet compared to most flywheelers, like the Nightingale and a lot of homemade builds that use FTW and micro wheels. The Diana is actually really quiet. Hits about 130 to 140 feet per second out of the box. That's with worker darts. It's got an illuminated red front sight, so you can line up that sight picture. It can't, there. So some of the cons though, it is that real still profile might be an issue for you, depending on where you're playing and your private fields and the color, of course. It doesn't bother me, I'm a zinc guy, I like the zinc, and so the real still silhouette's not much of an issue for where we play. It would be nice to have more orange on it, like an orange tip that I'm sure you could add on later. And I wouldn't recommend, getting it in all black or painting it all black. That's just a bad idea in general. But for the profile, I think it's fine. Your local group or laws, you may be a little bit more concerned about. It has a 10-round magazine in the grip, which is really nice, button release. 10 rounds though, this is a proprietary magazine. There are no other magazines with the same shape or profile or a mag detent location, and so it is a proprietary 10-round mag only. You can get an extension in the future or maybe design one or 3D print one, but 10-round only in a full auto pistol is a little bit underpowered, but it's great for semi-auto, and if you're using it as a secondary for just a burst and then to swap your mags, then it's totally good with a 10-round mag. But it is a proprietary mag, so that is a con if you don't like like proprietary magazines. Nightingale magazine fits in the handle. Does it work? So that notch position is, we measured it, it's slightly lower than a zinc. So it's different. You'd have to cut a new notch if you already notched it. I'm sorry, but if you have a Nightingale mag, you can cut a notch and we'll release those dimensions and even a cutting guide for you, but you can use a Nightingale mag. So you've got 15 round mag, full auto Diana, instead of their proprietary 10 round mags. So if you already have Nightingale mags, that could be a winner for you. Another con that I think is a bigger con is that if you do a lot of firing with the Diana, if you run it as a primary blaster on full auto and you're shooting a lot of rounds through it, it will heat up a lot. These black sections you see here are aluminum, and that is because it gets very hot with those wheels. So the aluminum acts as kind of a heat sink to pull that heat away from the motors, but because of that, these black sections can get very hot, almost too hot to touch. So if you're running it a lot and you stick it under your arm real quick, or you're wearing shorts and maybe you're exposed on those motor covers, it can potentially burn you. A really light burn though, if you run it a lot on full auto. I ran it for several rounds, semi-auto, just normal shooting, and it didn't get too hot. It got warm, it got hot, but I could still touch it. But then as I was revving it just full auto for several seconds and several mags worth, it did get to the point where it was too hot to touch. It shouldn't get too hot to really damage your holster if you run it. But that's something to be on the lookout for, that because of that heat danger running it full auto, it may not be the best idea to just hand it to somebody without warning them ahead of time, especially if it's a kid and they're more sensitive, sensitive skin or something with that heat. Diana is a bit bigger than a zinc, so if you have a dedicated zinc holster, the Diana is too big on the motor wells. But if you had a holster that's adjustable, that fits, the Chronos, all those other blasters, our droplet holsters we sell, that has the adjustable paneling on the inside, you can definitely fit. This is set up for a zinc right now, so you can obviously adjust it, fit your Diana in, and then you can tighten that back down so you have a perfect fit on your Diana blaster and a little beefier of a holster. And then you could really easily install a reed switch and then literally install a magnet on the side of any holster, and then you'd have your hyper mode, which is your idle or standby mode, that keeps the blaster revved, that you can then put it in. So the hyper mode or standby or idle mode keeps the motor spinning about 100 RPM. So that way when you take a shot, it just revs real quick up to full speed and then fires. So a brushless motor, the longest delay there is in the spin up is going from zero to around 100 RPM. So on the idle mode, you've already got a head start, so your rev up time is significantly reduced. You can also, they made a custom injection molded holster for it that slides in, and it actually just designed to squeeze onto the motor wells. So it just pinches on the motor wells, and you got some pretty good retention there, and then you can just literally slide or bend the plastic open to get it out. Now, there is some issue with the retention initially out of the box. It kept falling out on a run, but you can actually tighten the screws on the side to increase your retention and solve that problem. So it's actually pretty good. It comes with this clip as well. It is a belt clip, but you can also switch that out and then use any mounting system, like a HareTech belt. I wonder who sells those. So that is great. Hard shell holster, dedicated. I love dedicated hard shell holsters. I've got one for my zinc. Otherwise, I do like the cloth ones, but they're usually just bigger and baggier than they need to be, and they're a little bit harder to get in and out. With all that being said though, is it worth the money? Currently, in China, they retail for about $100 USD, which is amazing. In Singapore though, they're closer to 300 or 350 USD. And if you're in the US, getting it from a China distributor or a Singapore distributor, that comes out to about $380 with a couple of mags and a holster and the battery. But $380 for just this, is it worth the price? I think that it's a bit steep of price. So our goal, hopefully, is to be able to get these in the United States for cheaper. It will probably never be as cheap as coming from mainland China, but I think that if you run a lot of secondaries or you like pistols a lot, this is definitely worth the price. If you look at a lot of the options on the market, it's the one sidearm you'll buy and you never have to buy another one again, so that is by far worth the price. As a primary though, there's definitely better options out there for that price. So you don't get quite as much power as, say, a Zinc. So if I want a high power secondary, I'm going something a bit beefier like a Zinc, Springer's, Master Race. But for low power games or family games, go to secondary right here. It's gonna replace the Nightingale. The price point, not so much, but as far as function, oh yeah. That's the Diana by HareTech Technologies. HareTech or HC, Hair Technologies. To change your fire mode of your Diana. So first you want to put the left switch into the forward position and then your right switch into whatever setting you want. So let's just do normal semi-auto. Then middle is 2 round and forward is 3 round burst. So we're gonna go single shot, semi-auto, left switch in the forward position. Then we're going to hold down the trigger. And while we hold down the trigger, we're going to plug in the battery. And it should chime and then LED will go on. So it's all LED, it chimed. Then I'll let go. It'll then flash, chime, then go solid, and we should be ready to go. So this is still idle or hyper mode and regular mode, but this is now semi and full auto. So semi and full. Let's go semi, full, semi, full. Then to go into 2 round burst mode, unplug the battery, switch the side switch into the safe mode or the non-idle mode or the forward position. The right switch will go into the second or the middle position. Then we'll hold the trigger down, plug in the battery. It'll chime, light will go solid. Then you let go of the trigger. It'll then flash and chime and then go solid. And now we should have our safe mode, our 2 round burst, and our full auto. So that's 2 round burst, full auto. Hopefully you can hear that on camera because you definitely can't see it. Then for 3 round burst, it's the same thing. So you also do have your idle mode still. So faster response. So forward will be safe mode or program mode. Switch all the way forward, unplug the battery, hold the trigger down, plug the battery back in. I like to hold the connector against the frame and push up on the connector on the battery. Light goes solid, let go of the trigger, it'll flash, beep, solid, and then we'll have our 3 round and full auto. And now we have safe, 3 round burst, and full auto. And then you have your hyper mode, which is still 3 and full. So we have our normal, our 3, then we have our idle mode, 3 and full. Well, a lot more max. And then we can go into 2 round. So we'll disconnect the battery, forward position, middle position, trigger held down, battery in, and we're good. So 2 round burst.